Hey guys, welcome to DevOps School. In this video tutorial, we are going to learn about Python. Python is a general purpose, interpreted, interactive, object-oriented and high-level programming and scripting language. After going through this tutorial, I promise you that the concept and understanding of the Python will be absolutely clear to you. This series is divided into multiple parts. Therefore, subscribe to the channel and follow the playlist. But before that, let me ask you a few things. Are you dreaming of a career with higher pay and more responsibilities? Or are you ready to take your skills to the next level this year? Then start investing in DevOps School certification level courses which will help you to emerge skills for a wide range of entry-level roles and as well as higher potential future positions. But with thousands of courses online and in classroom worldwide, finding the right one for your career goals can be difficult. You can consider our courses like Agile Developer, Agile QA, DevOps Certified Professionals, Site Reliability Engineering, DevSecOps, and Masters in DevOps Engineering, where you will have access to well-structured, easy-to-follow course content that has been developed and will be delivered by industry professionals. You can join on our training programs globally through online platforms, and if you are looking for classroom workshops, then we have regular sessions available in Bangalore, Hyderabad, Chennai, Delhi NCR, Mumbai and in Pune. Simply compare our many courses, find the one that suits your style and schedule best and start today.
And this length function can give me the length of my each word. So when we run this, we get length of each word. Okay, so the basic learning objective from these examples is when we have a sequence, we can iterate over that sequence using a for loop. I hope this is giving a little fair idea about what is about iteration. So this concept is called as iteration. Now, let's move a little ahead and we'll talk something about functions. So what do you mean by a function, or what it looks like? So just like here we have a length function. If you have observed, we have used one more function, and that is print function. So these all are inbuilt functions. They are available to us by default. We can write our own functions also. Like just like here we have a length function. Let us write one function which takes a text element, a string. So I will not use the word text element. I will use here strings. That's a more technical word in Python. So strings means anything enclosed in this pair of quotes. It acts like a text element. So it's going to take a string as a parameter. So just like we pass this word to the length, and what length did, it gave the number of characters in the word. So same way I'm going to pass a word to my function, and it is going to return second character. Like here we have A, here we have I, here we have O, and here we have E. Okay, so that function is going to return the second character of my word. So let's write the function. Comment this out. Now a function is always defined using a keyword called as DEF. That stands for definition of the function, DEF. Now what this function is going to do, this function is going to give me second character. So I'll give the name accordingly, second CH. Okay. Now what do we need? We need a word. So we'll pass a word as a parameter. And now we have to write the syntax or the logic for extracting the second word, second character from each word. So here we have a syntax. Character is equal to word square bracket 1. So the first character will be always addressed with 0. Second character will be 1. third character will be 2, and so on. So now car has only 3 characters. So 0, 1, 2. Bike has 4 characters. So 0, 1, 2, 3. So this concept is basically called as indexing. And indexing is applicable to strings, list. So here we have list also. So in list also 3 will be at position 0, 2 will be at position 1, 6 will be at position 2, and so on. So this is applicable to strings, tuples. So these all are different types of data structures to which this indexing concept is applicable. Now, unfortunately, we don't have enough time to cover these concepts in detail right now. So I'm going a little fast on this. Now we want that value as written. So we will write here return statement, and we are going to return a character. So let's try to run. How to call this function? Run this function. Right, like this. Print, just like we call the length function inside print. So we call the function, whatever was the result of length, we printed it. So we are going to use print function over here. Print second character. And here we are going to pass a word. So I'll pass a word, say house. And now let's try to run this. Yes, we get the result as O, because O is the second character. Okay, so in this way we can define our own functions. This was a very basic function, but as and when you learn more about this programming, you can write really very complex algorithms and put that algorithm inside a function so that you can reuse this function at various places wherever you need it. So that's the main concept behind writing a function. It becomes a reusable code which you can use whenever required.
Why they this one
Yeah.
one thing difference between print and return?
Yes, print will print the content on your console. So this is your console. Here it will print it. Whereas return will just return the value where we are calling it. Like for example, I'm calling this function. It's called inside the print statement, so we can see it on the console. What I can do is I can just create another variable over here. Var is equal to second ch house. So now whatever is the value returned by this function gets stored in the variable. And now you can do anything with it. You want to manipulate that value, or you want to say print that value, whatever you want to do with that value, you can work on it. So if I write like this, it's still printing the value because I'm printing the var. Okay, getting it?
It means inside the function it's going to call return statement.
Yes, so return belongs to the function.
Okay, belongs to the function. Okay.
Yes. So whatever is the code getting executed inside the function, and whatever the result is coming, that result I am returning back in the form of return statement.
Okay. If you are not writing a return statement, what could be the result?
So now the
In
processing is
function
done.
state.
Yes. So
Okay.
whatever is the processing done over here, the result is not coming back from where it is called. So this function is a piece of code that holds certain algorithm. So wherever you need this code, you are just calling this function instead of writing that entire code. Okay. Now I am calling it over here. Now I executed the code, but what is the output of that code? I need to get that output of the code so that I can use it somewhere else, right? So
Okay. Makes sense. Yeah.
yeah. So like one example, one inbuilt function is there called as sqrt function. Okay. Now this function takes any number. Let's say I'm passing 64. It will return me 8.0. the square root of it. Now, if I am doing certain mathematical operations in my program and I want the square root again and again at multiple places, I don't have to write the algorithm for SQRT or square root, right? I can just simply call this SQRT function by passing the value and it will give me the result. So what I want to do with the result, I can either print it on the console or I can use that result to do some more calculations.
Okay, okay. Makes sense, yeah. Thank you so much.
So this is the basic concept of functions where you can write a code which can be reused. Now, one amazing thing about functions is that, let us say, you and say Jake, you both are working on same project, okay, and you are processing certain piece of data. Now, for processing the data, your team has designed a special formula, a special calculation. Now, that calculation requires 4 to 5 steps, and it is very specific to your project. It has nothing to do with the generic functions. It's specific to your project, but you are going to need that code multiple times. So now what happens is, Jake wrote the code in the form of a function, and what he does is he shares that piece of code in the form of a function with you. So you don't know how he has written that particular program. You know what that function does. That's what you know. But what is the logic, what function, what variables he has used, or what logic he has applied, that is something is unknown to you. So what you are going to do is you are just going to import that particular function in your environment and you are going to use it. Okay, so wherever that calculation is required, just call the function, get the output of the function and use it here for the process. So in this way, we can create our own libraries. Many libraries are already available, like math library, random library, where the generic functions are available. But if there are certain functionalities or calculations which are very specific to your project, you can create your own libraries and share among your teammates, or you can keep it on your project related server and import it from there. And you can use those calculations or that algorithm multiple times wherever required. So that's the best part of writing functions.
Just 1 second, Vaidevi. In order to
Yeah.
fetch a function from some other person, so we need to copy that code into our libraries or some other in our virtual environment, something somewhere like a workspace. There could be a folder in order to fetch that functionality.
Okay. So the functions designed by others will be stored in the form of a Python file. So just like we have created a Python file, so it will contain all the functions. Okay, whatever 10, 20,
Okay.
whatever number of functions are created, all will be stored in one Python file. Okay, and then that file will be called as a module. Here we call, in Python, we call it a module. Its meaning is just like your library, but we call it module. And once that Python file is ready, you can save that Python file in your environment, that is where Python is installed. Okay, so there are certain steps to set. There is something called as environment variables, and you can tell Python interpreter that okay, all my modules, external modules, are stored in this particular folder. You can save it in any folder and give the path as an environment variable. Okay, once that is done, you can simply import. So now what I will do is, let's say this, I want to use this SQRT function, and this SQRT function has been written by you in some module. So how I can write like this, write it is import math. Math is the name of the module, and import math has m. So I am just giving name to the module as m. I'm just assigning a variable m to my module. Okay, and now using this m variable, I can access my SQRT function anywhere in this particular file. So how I can access? I can write m.sqrt of 64. So the calculation will be performed. Whatever value is written by the function, I can store it in a variable and use it wherever required. So same way, you can import that particular module. So the name of the module will be nothing but the name of the Python file, whatever is the name, import it. give a name to that particular module in your environment and use the functions over there. Now, if the next question comes is how you will come to know what functions are there. So of course, the person who is building the module has to give a small documentation about it. So that documentation will tell you what all functions are available. Apart from that, there are certain ways in which you can find out using, there are something called as help function, dir function. So these functions are there available, using which you can find out what all is there in your module. But if it is a custom made module, then it is advisable to write a small documentation about what it is containing. So that's about the functions and the modules.
Yeah, when we
I
are
hope
importing the function import model name, as it's mandatory to give, or directly we can call the function.
No, you cannot directly call the function. If you write just import math, then you will have to call it math.sqrt. The reason is that in your current environment also you can create a function called as sqrt. So Python will get confused which function you want, the one which you have created in this file or the one which you are importing. So whenever we are importing, the best practice is always rename, give a small name to it and use it with the extension, that is m.sqrt or whatever name you have given to it. There is one more option of importing everything in the environment. So a lot of options are there, but this is the best practice which is followed.
Okay, sure. Thank you. So one more thing, like while writing the program, what are the things we have to make sure? Syntax level, functions, like assigning the variables, syntax. While we are writing, what kind of syntax we have to make sure? Some of the while we are writing the program, some of the cases, if I am beginner, I don't know how to write the program. You have given the total space against equal space, like the syntactical you are given. So I am not aware, I'm new. So how can we write the program? So in that point of view, can you explain? Can you give some regarding the syntax of the Python?
Okay, so in your Python file, first thing is if you are going to import anything, any modules, the import statements ideally should come at the start of the program. It is not compulsory though, but a best practice. You can write it at the start. Whatever imports are there, need not be just one or two. It can be 4, 5, any number of imports you're doing. Then you can define what exactly this particular program is doing, this particular file, what is there in this file. So you can write the description in the form of a comment. Again, it is optional, but yeah, you can write. It gives a good idea to a person who is reading your code. Then whatever variables are there, the names of the variables should be readable. Means if I'm storing numbers, we should give the names to the variable as numbers. We are, like in this case, we are storing like, now it's a mixed list, so I just gave a name LST. But if we were having simply car, bike, aeroplane, so they are modes of transport, so I can give the name as modes of transport. So if you notice, I have given underline over here. So the reason for underline is it makes my variable readable. So the moment I read it, modes of transport, I understand what is there in the list. So the names should be readable. You can also write in comments what this particular variable is doing or what this next few lines are doing in the form of comments. Spacing, it is not mandatory, but if you give spaces, it makes the code readable again. So it becomes easy to understand what is written in the code. Because if I am a developer, it's quite often, it's very normal in projects that a person who is working on the code might go on a leave or might leave the company, and you have to hand over the code from one person to another. So for the next person, it becomes easy to understand what logic or what code has been written previously. So these are some best practices which you can use. Then one very important point, try to write the code in the minimum number of lines. So exploit all the features in that particular programming language. This is applicable to any programming language, including Python, that you should know all the tricks in programming so that you can reduce the lines of code to the lowest level possible. But when you're reducing the code, you have to make sure that your program is not consuming a lot of time, because there is one simple example, like let us say I have this list, modes of transport, or maybe I'll take a simple list, this one. Now what I want to do is I'll just comment. Now I'll use another way of commenting. This 3 times single quotes is a multi-line comment. So you can comment multiple lines in just one go. Here I have a list, and now from this list I want to generate a new list, and this list is going to contain the squares. Okay, so what the same logic which we had applied here, but instead of printing, we are going to store those values in a new list. That's what we are going to do. So for that we have multiple ways. So one way is using the for loop. Now I will show you one trick over here. We can write this for loop in one single line like this. We want to add the square, so I'll write I square for I in numbers. Okay, that's it. So this one liner code is iterating on that list of numbers, as well as calculating the square, also generating a new list from the squares using the squares, right? So this is the entire task is just done in one line. So if you can reduce your code, you can use all the tools available. Secondly, this same task can be done in one more way, like this: squares is equal to list map, and here I'm writing some hi-fi code, so even if you're not getting it, it's okay. My main concern over here is to explain you the difference. X double star 2 comma numbers. Okay, so both the lines are doing the same thing, generating a list by iterating over numbers and storing them and calculating the squares and storing them in a list. So that's the both task done by both the lines. But first line is more you can say faster with respect to processing. Now this faster speed can be identified when you are iterating over a list with say 10,000 or maybe 1 million lines. So when the data is that huge, the difference between the processing time is observed. But if you are working on a very small data, then in that case, this difference is not much noticed. Okay, so depending on your application scenario, you can choose any one of it. Now there are some benefits of using the second method also. It's more elegant, it's more functional, and you can do more manipulations in a very easier way in the second method as compared to the first. But first one is faster. So you have to choose what kind of data you are handling and what output you want, right? So these are some things which you need to keep in mind when you're writing a program.
By the way, just one question. The second one, squares equal to I exponential means power of 2 for I in numbers. So I exponential 2 means like that is expression, right? First, it going to execute the expression, then it will be list out the I whatever the values, right?
In this case you're talking about? The second line.
Yeah, the second
Yeah.
line I'm talking about.
Correct. So first it will iterate using the for loop. So it will iterate over the numbers using the for loop, get each number from the list, and then do I square. So this code you can see. Can you see this code? This one. Same thing is being done in that case. So just it is a one-liner for that program.
Okay, makes sense. Yeah. And third line, somewhat like advanced level you did, right, with functions, lambda functions.
Yes, with lambda functions. So
Okay.
basically
So
both are doing the
in
same thing.
same thing means in the third line, the numbers first listing out, and the I variable is not there, right? Here X it is taking. Okay. So
Yes, here I have used the variable as X. So the for loop map function is taking care of applying the for loop.
okay, for loop as a map. Okay.
Yes. So here we
And the
are we are writing the for condition. Here map function has some code written inside that.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. If I ask lambda, it's going to be advanced. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Don't go in that because first you need to understand the
Yeah.
concept of
Right.
functions.
Right. Yeah. Thank you so much. Yeah.
So so these all are a part of these all are part of basic Python programming. So whatever is your final goal of using Python, these are the basic tricks which you need to learn as a Python programmer.
Hello, Vaidhi, what is that map
Yeah.
in the second function? What does that map represents there?
Map is a function, and map function has a code inside it which iterates over the list or whatever sequence we are giving. It iterates over the sequence and it applies the function mentioned over here. So whatever function we are mentioning here, it applies the function to each element of the sequence which we are writing. So I'll just show you the raw version of this. So map looks something like this. Map, function, what we want to apply, and the sequence on which we want to apply. So it iterates over each element of the sequence, applies the function to each element, and returns a new sequence generated by applying the functionality.
Where to look for the help for such kind of functions? If I do import or I want to learn what exactly this function is doing, or some it can be any function, right? So can you just let us know like how does it help work? How to know what exactly this function is about? And do you have any inbuilt tools such as in the terminal somewhere?
Yes, so you can run, you can call this function help and pass the name of the function about which you want the information. So I want the information about map function. So you can just write help map and it will give you the description about it. So the same thing which I told you. Map function takes first argument is function and second argument is the sequence. So I use the word sequence. Here they have used the word as iterables.
Okay, got it. Thanks. Yeah.
In this way. Now, if you ask me how to know what all functions are available, then yes, so these are very basic functions which will be covered by the trainer, whoever is teaching you basic Python programming. So most of the things would be taught to you as a part of your training when it comes to basic Python. But once you know the basic Python, you will automatically learn the skill of finding the module the task which you want to do. Like for example, if you want to read the data from images, so you can just go to Google and just do a little surfing where modules for reading data from images in Python. If you just give this in your Google search, you can find out, you can get some discussions. So they may say OCR module or few things are there. So once you get the names of those modules, you will automatically learn to how to see the documentation and how to go ahead with it. So the main thing you need to know is how to what are modules, how to write the programs in Python, how to understand what is the documentation of the function. So these are the basic steps in basic Python programming. And once you are thorough with that, you don't have to worry about, okay, which module I have to use or how I will go ahead with it. You will automatically learn it as a part of your basic programming.
Yeah, sure, that helps. Thanks.
Yeah. So let's move ahead. Where's the presentation? Yeah. So we talked about functions. Now let us talk about some error handling. So let me take the same file. Okay. So here, now Python, error handling in Python. So here the developer has to be a little proactive when it comes to programming using Python. Here Python will not throw any compile time error, as in like if you have any idea about C or Java. In those languages, first the program is compiled. During compilation, or is there any syntax error, like if you have missed any brackets or any colon or a comma, anything. If you have missed anything, your compiler tells you before running the program. Here it's not that case. Everything is runtime environment. So if there is any syntax error or any other type of error, everything gets encountered at the runtime. So here you have to be a little proactive. For example, I am taking an input from user. I'm storing in a variable. Let's say I'm taking a number as an input from user. So for input, we have a function called as input, and I'll write a prompt. I will say enter a number. Okay. Now I want to multiply this number by say 10, or I want to add 5 to this number. Simple program. So I'll write a variable add is equal to number plus 5. Okay, and let's print add. Now a user can enter any type of value, right? He need not enter a number only. Even if I have written there enter a number, user may enter say X, Y, or whatever it is. He can enter any value. So as a developer, I should analyze that, okay, this input function is user dependent, and I have to take care of my next line. So if he enters something like ABC, then what will happen? ABC plus 5 is going to give us an error.
Thanks for watching. To watch our complete session, enroll for our premium membership. Click onto the join button and enroll yourself with the best suited option.
Please be kind enough to like it, and you can comment any of your doubts and queries. We will reply to them at the earliest. Want to study further? Subscribe to our paid membership to get a deep dive into each and every topic. Do look out for more videos in our playlist and subscribe to our DevOps School channel and hit the bell icon to learn more. Keep learning.